look what the, commies, I suppose, brought us. An anime that is not an isekai! Color me shocked, ladies and gentlemen. Though, considering the previous anime, maybe the main heroine of the story was actually one of those mythical women shut-ins I constantly keep hearing about. But the anime doesn't want to tell us about it for fear of sparking a socialist revolution. Fairy Gone is a 12-episode original anime made by PA Works, and it's pretty much every action dark fantasy anime story ever told in the early 2000s. Don't believe me? Let me break it down for you. In a world that suspiciously looks like the late 19th to early 20th century Europe, local Bismarck finally had enough and unified the shit out of his home continent of Eastol. 10 years after it, the now unified Zestia suffers from being very incompetent at what it's trying to achieve. But let's be honest, people, that's all background flavor text as we focus on our main heroine. A lone girl who, for most of her life, was very unlucky, apparently, and now she suddenly gets possessed by a fairy, and because of this gets recruited into the special anti-fairy forces. Then suddenly everyone and their dog around them have super special fairy powers that, along with our character moping about her very hard life, is pretty much the story in a nutshell. There are some other subplots in the story, but honestly speaking, they're either inconsequential or poorly explained at best. For example, the fairy tomes. Fairy tomes are tomes of knowledge on everything about the fairies, aka local magical MacGuffin, do not steal, and a big chunk of the plot is devoted to collecting these pieces of old toilet paper like it's something very important. Yet, you know what the titular black fairy tome deals with? Fairy possession, aka the thing that previously stated was totally impossible and barely known until our main heroine done it in the first episode. And that basically broke my suspension of disbelief right and proper, as not only the thing everyone claims is impossible is so possible, in fact, some fuck wrote on a book 300 years ago, but you're also trying to convince me that this thing is so fucking valuable, the mafia and the local Ministry of Magic of all things is fighting for it, even though this makes fuck all sense considering that putting some fairy scrotum in the person is infinitely easier than forcing a fairy to rape someone and then becoming their stand. The graphics are actually pretty good, though it's unsurprising, of course, for a studio that made Sirius the Jaeger. The music is made mostly out of bombastic rock tracks that certainly leave an impression, but eventually start to feel like you're in some music video more than an actual anime. You know, I feel like the age of long-ass shonen animes has finally ended. Yes, One Piece is still going strong, and yes, I bet there is at least one anime right now that's still going and doesn't plan to stop, but overall, it's all now dumbed down to 12 or 25, if you're lucky, episodes, and for some animes, that amount of episodes is just not enough. This anime has potential. No, really, I'm serious. When I wasn't bored to death, I felt the same pleasant vibes I felt back in the day when I was watching, say, D. Greyman or Soul Eater. But those two animes had something Fairy Gone lacks. And simply put, that's time. If it was a 50 to 70 episode anime, it would have the necessary time to shape its characters in the world, explain its factions, desires, and stories, thus making their actions meaningful and impactful for the viewer, and currently there's none of that. Other than our main pair of cocks and vaginas, there was no characters who were more than just their looks, and when one of them died, spoilers ahoy by the way, I was struggling to not fall asleep. Like, who are you people? One was only seen once before talking like a douchebag to another douchebag, while the other was only active in the episode he's getting killed. So, you know, talk about anticlimactic, hey folks? This anime reeks of a rush job, like the studio developed this whole thing while being high on heroin, which would explain why they decided to split the previously 24 episode anime into 12. The good parts only last for a couple of hours anyway, and you get used to it fairly quickly. Which is a big shame, really, because I feel like now that the big three has finally been reduced to one grandpa that refuses to die out of spite, we kinda need something that would, if not take their place, at the very least give us that serialized feeling. AKA, why all of you motherfuckers watched Game of Thrones even though you knew it's gonna end miserably like the rest of them. Hell, this and Sirius the Jaeger would work nice as some sort of shared universe sort of deal. Yet the closest we have after that these days is cunt-flapping JoJo, and Fairygon and all the others were so much as a wet fart with varying levels of diarrhea. Basically, what I'm trying to get across is this. Watching Fairygon is like reading about the Haitian Revolution. Sad, miserable, and absolutely pointless in the long run.